Hi guys, it's Jennifer Miller from the producing class, and this is the casting small tutorial where we'll be talking about tips and reminders for casting for a smaller scope or project, or casting for a small business commercial, or for a small budget. So we're going to talk about some best practices, and then we'll take a look at the template that you guys are using for your assignment this week. First, we want to consider main talent versus extras. So take a look at your script and determine how many main talent you're going to require and if you need any extras for this production. So the difference is that main talent are going to be roles that are vital to the production or scene. They can be speaking or non-speaking roles, but they usually have character traits. They have necessary actions within the script. In other words, the scene is not going to work if you don't have your main talent in place. Extras are also called background actors. These talent represent non-speaking and non-vital roles. And when I say non-speaking, it doesn't mean that they're not allowed to speak. It just means that they typically don't have any planned specific dialogue. So they might be part of a group, a cheering section, or the director might give them a speaking role, but it'll kind of be more off the cuff and less planned. They're generally used as fill-ins to make a set or location appear more realistic in a controlled manner. Our reading assignment for this week from the Producing and Directing This Short Film and Video book by Peter Ray has 9 basic casting steps, and that reading is going to have a lot more details in terms of what is required for each of these steps, but I thought I'd include them in our reminders. So you want to advertise your specific roles, you want to scout local theater companies and acting schools, and you want to contact your state film commissions for sure. You also want to then organize any submitted headshots or resumes before arranging your casting calls and then following up with callbacks. Finally, you want to negotiate with your selected actors and then deal with your rejected ones. And our reading assignment has some great tips on how to do each of those steps. But one step that we probably can't get around unless your client is providing all the talent is getting the word out. So here are some options to consider. Local film commission. Reach out to them, see what resources they have available. You can talk to your regional film commissioner office, or you can go to your state film office as well. There are many talent websites out there that will have resources for you and be able to sort talent based on your geographic area. I'm going to give you some examples in the next slide, so keep an eye out for those. Social media sites. Facebook has been hugely helpful in helping many people find local talent. You can search pages or groups based on your area that are having casting calls, and you can place your own casting calls there as well. And finally, local colleges or universities that have a theater or acting program are good to check out. I know that in Tommy Dennis's lecture on casting, he mentions the difference between actors who are trained for the stage versus the screen, so keep those things in mind. But the reality is, when we're working on a very small budget project, sometimes we have to get creative, and a lot of times these colleges have actors who are anxious and willing to collaborate for work and experience with directors. Websites and searches. Here are some options that you can use. Craigslist.org, Now Casting, Backstage, Showbusy.com, Junior Talent is for children or teens, castinglist.com, and Greater Talent. And then in terms of just putting in a Google search and seeing what it gets you, casting catalog with your city name, film talent, the word casting itself, or actors. So try those searches out and see if they get you started on any leads or headed in the right direction. Once you have some interest, then you need to make sure you reserve a space. So find an adequate space, and really you probably want to do this first so that you can tell everyone when you need to be somewhere and where they need to be for the casting session. So you should be locking in your space, we'll say. Make sure it's an adequate space if you need to cast multiple roles. It should be quiet and free of distractions, and you should have a separate waiting area with chairs so your talent can wait for their turn. It doesn't have to be a big production studio. It can be like this photo is in a classroom. It can be in a conference room, at a local hotel, anywhere that has a clean and professional and quiet area that you can use. In terms of setting up your casting sessions on the day of the casting, make sure you have clipboards and pens set up for everyone to fill out their paperwork. You want to bring your camera equipment so that you can record the sessions and play them back later for review. And then you can consider using talent application forms and talent assessment forms. Now, these forms are not required for your assignment this week, but I'm giving you a copy of them just to take a look at in case they might be helpful to your future productions. So this one is the casting assessment form here on the right. This is something that's just for your casting director, your producer, your director, or in the case of you guys, you're probably all three. So this is just for private use. You're going to be rating and adding in comments about the talent's performance, okay, and how you experienced their casting session. So you can type these in on your laptop, or you can print out a copy and write them in by hand. Same goes with this side, except this is for your talent to fill out, maybe while they're in the waiting room, or if you want to send them a digital copy to their email, they can have it filled out and bring it in with them when they arrive. It has basic contact information, physical descriptions, things like that. You can change out these logos here with your own production company logo or your personal logo as well. Then make sure you have backups while you're casting, guys, especially if we're working on a low budget. If you are working with an actor and a paid gig comes up and it happens to be the same days that your shoot takes place, there's a good chance you might get dropped. So make sure you have a backup plan and prepare for that in advance. A few more tips, make sure you know SAG union rules. Now there's information in your textbooks and in other places throughout the class, so get familiar with that, or just go to the SAG website and start learning more. They have a lot of restrictions and rules and forms in place if you are working with SAG talent, and the more professional, better talent in your area is going to be SAG affiliated. So it's definitely something you guys need to be aware of and start to get to know. And if you have any questions, then feel welcome to contact us. We'd also like you to avoid family and friends. Now, we're not saying you're not allowed to use family and friends. You are allowed to use family or friends as talent, but we want you guys to push yourselves, and if you can, try to network and use those casting skills so that you're not relying on people that are close to you. So try to see if you can go outside of your comfort zone and find local talent. When you're completing your casting sessions, try an icebreaker. You can find so many examples online. I think Tommy talked about this as well. This is just part of making your talent feel more comfortable, and you'll get a more genuine reading out of them that way. Now, some of you may need to find a larger group of extras for your production. This particular image is from the National Geographic Channel Brain Games TV show that I worked on, and my role on that show was the production coordinator, and part of that role was casting extras. So for this particular episode that you're looking at, we had over 50 talent required, and they were interactive audience members, so they needed to answer questions, have reactions, that kind of thing. Also, Nat Geo had a very specific demographic in mind as to the type of individual we wanted to feature in their audience. So to set this up, I had an A group, a B group, and a C group during the casting process. That means I had 2 times as many people as I needed for the actual show, and I did that for a couple reasons. First, that lets the producer and directors make the final decision as far as who is cast, and it also gives me backup options. Even though this was a paid position for every audience member, I still had about 4 or 5 who didn't show up the day of the shoot, so luckily I already had backup talent standing and ready on hand to fill in those spots. In this case, everybody gets a talent release and it's signed off before they even walk onto the set. However, what if you're working with a location or in a public place where you can't control who is going to be in the background? Well, this is a little bit different, and it's not technically part of casting, but I figured I would include it in this lecture so you guys got the information. I'm going to give you a copy of this crowd release notice, and it's pretty general and basic. You can remove the Full Sail logo and put in, again, your own production company logo. You want to fill out all the information, and then you want to print it out as large as you can in multiple copies. And this is going to be for a public space where you cannot control the people or the crowd that is going to be in the background of your shoot. And here's how it works. The crowd release notice doesn't cover you. It's not a blanket coverage, right? It's not going to cover every single person or every part of your scene if you have it up somewhere. If there are specific entrances and exits to your location, put these at all of them. If you're in a more open area like a beach scene, then you want to put them anywhere around the perimeter, and as many as you can so that someone will have to pass by one in order to come into the area where you're shooting. Now, if you have individuals in the background of your shot and you have these crowd notices placed, if they're far enough in the background that their faces are out of focus and they're not recognizable, then your crowd release is covering you and you are good to go. However, if any of those people walk in closer to the camera or they come into focus where they can be identified visually by their face, then they have to have a release form. And that's the same talent release form that you give to all of your main talent. So let's say, for example, you're working with a yoga instructor as your client and she is hosting yoga classes in the park, and you can't control who comes and goes in the background of this yoga class that you're going to be shooting. So there's two different approaches that you can take. You can choose the wait and see approach. So that's basically start setting up your shot, wait and see who happens to walk into the background, and then if someone walks into your shot and they're recognizable in your image, then you can send one of your crew members over to professionally and politely speak with that person as soon as they walk out of your shot, give them the talent release, and hope that they sign it. Now, in order to make this work, you definitely need to have an extra crew member on hand just to be doing those releases, because otherwise you would have to walk away from your camera position while you're still rolling. So have someone on hand, at least one person, who can chase those individuals down with the release forms. This method is risky though, guys. It's high risk because if the person that walked through declines to sign your talent release, you cannot use the footage that has them in it. Your only other option would be doing like a rotoscoping in post and blurring out their face, but that compromises, the integrity of your image and it can be distracting. So it's not always the best case scenario. So a less risky but more time-consuming option would be getting signed talent releases from everyone prior to filmmaking. So you go around to everyone that's in the general area, or you have multiple crew members positioned at the perimeter, and anyone who walks into the area is going to get stopped in advance and offered the talent release for signing. Now this is going to take more time, more organization, and more crew members to pull off, but it's the safer bet. So the choice is up to you to decide what's going to work best for your production and your, individual scenario. All right, guys, now let's discuss some important forms and releases. You'll see on our left column we have required forms, and on the right, not required or optional forms. This is considering your future classes in the DCBS program. So whenever you are submitting footage that you've captured for a school project, then we want to see that our required forms are completed and prepared for that footage in advance. We don't require the additional optional materials that are in the right-hand column, but they're still good to know and can be helpful to your production prep. Talent release form, which looks like this. That's required for all main talent and anyone who is visually in the image, including extras. Hold harmless releases. We have a university hold harmless that looks like this. That's required for all talent. We also have a producer's hold harmless. That's for your production company to protect yourselves, and that's required for all talent as well. Now, not typically required in our classes are the talent application form, the talent assessment form, and also the talent deal memo, which is mentioned in your other lecture material for this week. But we've provided a copy of these forms for your reference only, should you wish to take a look. And if you have any questions, you can feel welcome to let me know. Next, let's prepare your casting catalogs for this activity submission. The requirements for this assignment state that students need to submit one casting catalog profile sheet. So that means you need to select one of your talent from your script, and that would be one of your main talent, to complete this casting catalog profile for. This can be talent who would be interested in participating in the project should you move forward with production of this concept. But for now, you're welcome to tell the talent that you are completing this as part of a class activity, or you can simply say that you're currently expanding your talent catalogs with potential local actors for future projects. Each casting catalog profile is going to include a headshot photo, and you want to make sure that that's formatted as the traditional headshot, as a medium close-up or close-up image. And then your casting catalog is going to be saved out as a PDF. Now, if you want to complete more than one catalog profile sheet, you are more than welcome to do so. Just turn them in as a combined PDF. So next, you're going to go ahead and complete your casting catalogs. But before I send you there, I'm going to show you what our templates look like and give you a brief rundown. Now, as much as possible, I try to give you guys the option of Pages versus Word. For this particular assignment, you can choose between Pages and Excel. So it's the same content and information, it just looks a little bit different. I personally prefer Pages for this one. So now we're going to quickly do a fill out for one of our talent just so you guys can get a feel for it. So I'm going to complete this catalog for my talent, and his name is John Sessoms. And John played the role of the groom in our Creations Catering commercial sample video. So after I dragged my image in here, it cropped off his head a little bit, so I'm going to go in here and edit this mask, and you can actually take that down to fit. We gave you a little bit of play space around here, so you can adjust that window as you need to based on your headshot. So I have John's headshot in here. The role that he was considered for was the groom. And then for your description, you can add descriptive information about how your casting went. You can add information about how you found or located this talent. You can add in any extra notes, personality-wise, anything that comes to mind, you can add here in your description. Then you want to come down here and make sure that you give credit to the photographer. We'll just say in this case it was himself, but give credit to the person who owns the rights to the image. Then you want to make a note of their availability. If they're totally wide open, then you would put the current date as the start date, and then the end date you would just put all. Contact information, the legal name. If it's the same as the name you listed at the top of the page, then just type in the same name. Sometimes actors have separate talent screen names, so you want to make sure you have their legal name here. And then any extra comments that you happen to have. Now we're moving down into the physical description, so you want to make sure you put his height and his weight, his eye color, hair color, date of birth, and if there are any distinguishing features, like for example any tattoos that are visible or anything else that would make this actor stand out. You don't have to fill out this section, distinguishing features, if they don't have any, but everything else here is a required prompt, and the same thing with the wardrobe side as well. Now obviously we won't have a dress size for John, but everything else needs to be filled out in terms of our wardrobe sizing. Now you might be thinking, This is real world talent. So in this case, John was a fictional groom character, but maybe you are filling this profile out for Bob's Bikes, and Bob is the talent. He's also the owner of the bike shop, and you're wondering, why do I have to fill out this guy's pant size? Well, first of all, keep in mind that this is still a class activity or a class assignment, so we just want to make sure that you are reflecting all of the required information in our worksheet, but also because of a few different reasons. One, again, you might have to use this talent again in the future. And at that time or during that production, wardrobe sizes might be something that you do need. Another reason is you never know if something's going to go wrong on set. And if you've been shooting Bob in his white t-shirt all day, and then all of a sudden he has a hoagie during your lunch break and he spills dressing all over his shirt, and you have to have a PA run out and get him a new shirt because the entire production is on hold until he replaces that shirt so you can keep shooting without any continuity concerns. Then you need to know his shirt size, and instead of trying to track him down, you can just have the PA already on his way to your local mall or Walmart or whatever you have. Now, that actual example happened to me. I was the PA quite a while back, and that exact situation came up, and luckily we had a talent profile, and even though he was wearing his own clothes, I was able to get a replacement that worked. So fill out all of the prompts. Again, the only prompt that you're not required to fill out is your distinguishing features and your notes sections here at the bottom. And then also, if you don't have any specific comments, you can leave that blank as well. But I do need to see at least a couple sentences in your description line to tell us about who this person is, where they came from, etc. Now you have multiple blank templates in this one sheet. If you need more, you can copy and paste. If you need less, just fill out the ones that you need. When you're finished completing your template or your worksheets for the casting catalog, we're just going to do a file export PDF. You're going to save it out and you're going to submit it. Now, if you guys have any questions or concerns while you are completing your casting catalogs, please don't hesitate to contact me, jemiller@fullsail.com, and I'll be more than happy to help you out. You can check out a completed example of our casting catalog in our download section.